Hello and welcome to part 2 of the Foglight Experience Monitor installation and configuration. We'll begin this section where we left off with the collection configuration live demonstration, and we'll pick that up next with the reporting configuration. Now the reporting configuration is contained on the document called Foglight Experience Monitor Getting Started Guide. So it's not the same document that we followed in step 1. This is the second document of the two. On that guide you'll find 6 steps, starting with the identification of a user session all the way through the selection of the reports that you want to distribute, and we'll recommend some of the reports for getting started that we'd like you to distribute in this guide. Without further ado, let's jump right over to the reporting configuration live demonstration. In order to get started, you'll need to log into your appliance interface, and for those of you that may have forgotten, admin and admin are the default username and password. Now what we'll do to get started is we want to first identify the user session. So to do that, you would go Configure, Monitoring, User Sessions. And what we want to do is pick a variable here that's going to be representative of the users that are coming in so that we can understand the true user count as opposed to just understanding the page count that comes in. So you can do this by just entering a variable if you know it. If I know JSessionID is my cookie that we use to sessionize on, I could just put that in there. Or alternatively, what I can do is auto-discover variables, and we'll help you pick the one that's best suited for your application. Now typically a web administrator is going to be best to tell you which variable that you want to use for this. So the auto-discovery is going to sample your traffic, and it's going to pick out candidates for using as a session identification variable. Now usually JSessionID, ASP.NET Session ID is usually a good one. That's a default for .NET. So depending on the type of application you have, it's going to pick the variables out for you. Now when I hit stop, it's going to give me the option to either select one of these variables, and if you let it run long enough, it'll pick the most appropriate one for you. At this point, the Foglight Experience Monitor knows to take this ID, this identification variable rather, out of each of the hits that it sees coming in, and to classify those under the appropriate user session. After we configure the session identification variable, the next thing we want to do is we want to create some groupings for URLs, and we'll do that by going to Configure, Applications, Application Components. And these are groups of URLs that you want to measure. So what we do is add a new application component here, and I'm going to make a group for my e-commerce site. So I'm just going to call this my e-commerce. And what I do on e-commerce is I can tell it the SLA. So this is the end-to-end time. So this is the time that it takes to get back to the browsers. So what I'm saying is every page inside my e-commerce should be delivered back to the browser in less than 4 seconds. And it should be processed by the web servers in less than 1 second. So I can adjust that here, and I'll give it 2 seconds. So these are my thresholds that are going to be showing up in my reports. Now, if I know regular expression syntax, I can write the matching expression here, or what I can do that's a bit easier is I can pick a directory, and I'll just pick a root directory. So this is my e-commerce app. So I'm just going to pick that and say OK. Now at this point, I have one group of URLs that are being monitored, and everything for my e-commerce. We're just going to use that example for now. So the next thing after I define application components, and depending on the number of apps you have, you'd probably want to define 5 or up to 10 of these. But what I'm going to do is just skip to the one for now. And the next thing we'll want to do is configure the email server. So I go to Configure, Appliance, Network Settings. And this will give me an opportunity to enter in my mail server IP address. Now this is the one I entered is 10.1.0.160 and 10.1.1.10, as I also put an NTP server in so that my times are synchronized on my reports. So those are the only 2 fields that you'll need populated in your network settings. Once you apply those, we now have a path out to your IP address for your mail server, and we're now synchronizing the time on the appliance. Now after we configure the email server settings, the next thing we want to do is go to Configure, Reporting, and we want to set up some email groups. So who do you want to send these reports to? Now what I'm going to suggest is we pick 2 different groups of people. We pick the IT executives, and we create a special group for each of the users. Now I'd put the IT exec. Either you could put a distribution, or you can list individual emails in here and just add those to the list. So I can add more than one or just one, depending on what I need. So I'd create an email group for IT executives, And then I'd create another email group for each of the applications that you're monitoring. So in this case, I'm monitoring My E-commerce. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a My E-commerce admin group, and then put ecom admins in. And this would be their email address, of course. I'm just putting something in here so you can see how it's done. Okay, now I have two email groups of people that I want to send these reports to. After I define the email groups, I'm now going to have to come and create special reports for each of my application groups that I've defined. And the way that I do this, I would go to Monitoring, Customize Report Sets, and in here you'll find a report that's App Support. Now this App Support report is more of a template. So what we want to do is we want to copy that template, and we're going to repeat this step, these steps that I'm doing now, for each of the applications that we've defined. So I'm going to copy this one, and I'm going to make this special for the one that I defined, which is My E-commerce. Okay, and what I'm going to have to do is define each of the reports in the set to go to My E-commerce. So I would click on Edit, I would choose Resource, and I would pick My E-commerce, which is the only one I've defined at this point. Again, on this one, Edit, and then I would choose Resource on both of these and pick My E-commerce. Okay, special filters for that. The third one, this one's going to be a bit different. On this one, I'm going to actually have to choose the site that's My E-commerce. And then the final one, again, choose Resource and then just pick My E-commerce. So now what we've done is we've created a special report that's just going to report on metrics for the group of URLs that are grouped in My E-commerce application component. Now, the final step that I'm going to want to do here after I do this is add the scheduled reports. In order to do this, I go Configure Reporting, and then I go to the Scheduled Reports. Now I want to schedule 4 reports. I'm going to schedule under the admin user, I'm going to schedule each of the IT exec reports, and they're suffixed by IT exec. And then what I can do is I can put the times in, so I could say every Monday at 8 a.m. and then you can select multiple days as well on when these get distributed. And then you want to put the email group in here, which is IT execs, who's going to get distributed to. Okay, now you'll do this for each of the IT exec reports, as I mentioned earlier, and then we'll put the IT exec group in and the appropriate times. And the last one, the IT exec report. And I just left it scheduled for midnight now, but now those users would all get emailed. And then finally, we want to do one other one, and we want to change the email group here. So I want to do the My E-commerce application performance and volume report, and I want to schedule that instead of IT execs. I'm going to send it to the My E-commerce email group. Okay, so at this point, I've scheduled 4 reports and have those sent to each of the appropriate users. I'm going to pause right now and give you a quick peek at what those reports will look like. The first report we'll look at is the application performance and volume report that we did for My E-commerce. So this is going to show the end-to-end time, the top pages by volume, and the slowest pages for the application. If we zoom in on this one, you'll see the time here. So this gives you an idea for the day. It gives you an idea of your report distribution or your page distribution. So I can see 72% of the pages were served up in less than 2 seconds, and that 14.5% were between 4 and 8 seconds. I also see the page times based on the time of day, and this will show me the processing time on the web server versus the page client time, which is the end-to-end time. I'll also list by URL the top 10 slowest pages, and then I'll also list the pages by download time, so which ones took the longest to download from which locations. So this way you can see locations that were slow as well. At just the end now, we'll take a look at one of the IT exec reports, which is going to be the SLA performance and volume, all sites SLA. And then there's 2 other ones for the IT execs as well that you can have a look at once you get them running. But this one will show you all of the application components you define. So in our case, it's My E-commerce. It'll show you the service level attainment, the response time at the browser, and the response time at the web server. So it'll also show me the service level attainment over time, so I can see any time of day when it deviated from the expected. And I'll also be able to see the representative response times for the different applications, which one took the longest. And then finally, we'll have at the bottom, we'll have the traffic volume history. So this way you get an idea if volumes are affecting performance as well. This concludes our presentation. Thank you very much for attending.